What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest. But this is a different version of Lions Latest. This is your in-season Lions Latest. Sort of like Hard Knocks in season. It's Lions Latest in season. As the NFL season kicks off tonight, we have Rams, Bills. By the time you're seeing this, the game may have already happened. It may be going on right now, or it may not have started yet. I don't know. But that's happening tonight. The season is here. Lions, Eagles, Sunday. So we have the injury report to take a look at. Today is Thursday, so our second look at the Lions injury report. Tomorrow is the final injury report, and then of course they give us the inactives about an hour before the game starts. Now I can't guarantee whether or not I'll actually be able to go live this weekend. That's kind of up in the air. However, going forward, we should be able to go live for these games. But this game I may not be able to, which I know it's like, wait a minute, it's opening weekend. What the heck's going on? And it just is what it is. Sometimes it just goes like that. But with that being said, it is the start for the season for the Lions, and today we got some things to talk about. Roster moves, injury report updates, and presser notes. So let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here, and it feels so good to be back. I mean, now I don't know how this season is going to compare to previous seasons when we had like a exact schedule on when we were going to go through certain things. That will change. My schedule has changed this season, so things will be a little bit different, maybe a little bit less, maybe just a little bit different of how the schedule looks. However, it doesn't matter. The season here, and that's really all that matters, is that the Lions are playing football, and hopefully season goes better than it did last season. Hopefully we're not off to an 0-8 start, because if that's the case, it's just going to be real unfortunate. By that time, it's like, okay, well, dang. Off with a really tough game against Philly. Now, this is not like my preview / prediction, like score prediction type of thing, even though we kind of hit on that yesterday. That's not today. Okay, that may come out tomorrow. That may come out actually Saturday. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure when that will come out. And I just have started kind of tapping into some of the Philadelphia Eagles, rewatching our game last season against Philly, taking notes about who Philly is and what they've done. So this is not like a full-blown preview, but I will have some little nuggets that I'll throw in there as we go through. We heard from Dan Campbell yesterday. We heard from Jared Goff yesterday. Today, though, we got to hear from Aaron Glenn, Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, and also Ben Johnson, which I thought was exciting. I think they kind of gave away who was going to be calling plays, even though I don't think it's officially out there yet, but I think they kind of gave it away. So a lot of things to discuss, and a couple of roster additions with some unfortunate injuries that have popped up. But that's the NFL season. Unfortunately, injuries just happen, and you just have to adjust to them. It's unfortunate because it means that we won't get to see this starting 5 offensive line at least until, at best, week 5 of this season. You know, you have to be able to adjust, and that's why depth is so darn important in the National Football League, specifically at certain positions. Certain positions you can kind of get away with it, certain positions you can't. So you better have addressed that depth if you know that you need to have it at that spot. Go through it. So as you guys can see on the top is the Detroit Lions injury report. Again, there will be another one tomorrow. And on the bottom, I should call it a participation report. Who participated in practice? This isn't like your ins, outs, questionables. You guys checked out last year's videos. We did the same thing last year. It's instead who participated in practice. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of maybe who's going to play and who's not going to play based on their participation. And then sometimes you get nice little nuggets from the coaches, and they're like, well, we're kind of anticipating this.
I don't have enough money for chicken nugget.
The lines on the right side, the ones that are in green means it was an improvement. The color at the end did not change. It's the same as it was the day before. And if it's red, it means that they downgraded from the day before, at least in terms of according to the participation report. And I'll talk about that in a second. But according to today, John Kaminsky returned to practice, full participation. We expect him to be able to play. It was an illness that held him out of practice yesterday, which you always hate to see guys with illness, always hoping that they get better. But usually when a guy is put on with illness early in the week, it's usually that they're going to be back. So that's usually the case, and it looks like John Kaminsky is going to be good to go, which is going to be huge in this game, especially when you're talking about Philly and their rushing attack. But then you also throw in how much John Kaminsky has meant to this team throughout the preseason and the offseason. It's going to be big time to have John Kaminsky on the field. I'm just excited to see this guy in a Lions uniform. I get some Charles Harris of last year vibes from John Kaminsky. I really do. He's got an opportunity to play some more meaningful role than maybe we anticipated coming into the year, because Romeo's not here right now. Josh Pascal's not here right now. Levi doesn't look like he's going to be here for week 1. So a guy like this has an opportunity to play a bigger role, and we'll just see if he can make the most of it. But so far, he's made some darn good plays every time I've seen him. Tommy Kramer, this one's a little bit concerning because it doesn't seem like we've had much of an update here. Now, Ben Johnson may have been asked about Tommy Kramer today, and he may have said that he went through walkthroughs, but I couldn't tell if that was talking about Tommy Kramer or someone else. Either way, on this, for back-to-back days, he's been listed with no participation, which is not great, because if you don't know, you probably already do, but if you don't, Big V is out for at least the first 4 weeks of the season, as he has been placed on a Lions injury reserve, dealing with a back issue that apparently it kind of flared up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dan Campbell said he has no regrets with playing it, but it sounds like they weren't really aware that this was going to be something. Of course, if they were, they wouldn't have played the guy, but they played him, got a little bit worse apparently, and now it's just something that he's on IR. He said it's going to be basically week to week after that, after the first 4 weeks are up, and they'll just see where he's at. When he was asked if he was going to be out for the season potentially, he said no, but then he pulled it back and said, well, actually, we don't really know, but you know, maybe that's a little bit of a good sign. Point being is that's the line starting right guard. Now I got to see Penei Sewell at right tackle, Big V at right guard, center Frank Ragnow, left guard Jonah, and left tackle Decker in a regular season game. We just have not seen it yet. We won't get to see it this week. So with that, we have to make an adjustment. Who's going to fill in that right guard position? The easy move could be we'll put a different right guard in the game. And of course, that would usually be Tommy Kramer, who's kind of like the sixth man on this offensive line. But since he has no participation for back-to-back days, that may not happen. And even if he was healthy, they still may not decide to go that direction, because according to Ben Johnson, it's always about first, who are your 5 best offensive linemen. That's the first thing you take a look at, and they may not look at it like that, even though he does have the most experience at the guard positions. He did have to play a little bit for us last season. He actually played both guard positions for us last year. There's options. The Lions definitely have options with this. As you may have heard, the Lions have went out and added a couple of offensive linemen, one to their practice squad, another one to their active roster, in place of Big V, who is now on the IR list, which means you open up a roster spot. The Lions claimed Drew Forbes, a guard who was drafted just a few years ago by the Cleveland Browns when John Dorsey was there, and they also today picked up an offensive lineman whose name is just completely impossible for me to say personally. Maybe you could do it. I can't. I haven't looked up how to say it, so I'm just going to go with his first name, Ross, to the practice squad. But we're going to hit on those more in a second. But the Lions have options here. All right, even if Tommy Kramer was healthy, but the Lions still have options here. They have discussed the possibility, and this was one of my favorite ideas that was thrown out there, is potentially moving Frank Ragnow to the guard position, right guard, then putting Evan Brown at center. Then you can keep both Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker at left tackle and right tackle, which I think is extremely important, especially in this game, because that was an issue last time we played them. All right, we gave up 21 pressures last time we played this team, and in that game, we did not have Frank Ragnow or Taylor Decker, so we had Matt Nelson at right tackle, Penei Sewell at left tackle, and Evan Brown starting at center. I kind of like that idea of doing that, but then as you guys can see at the bottom, Frank Ragnow apparently did not participate today. And that would definitely put another little wrench in all of this. Now we got to replace 2 interior offensive linemen for this game. So I'm not saying for sure that he's out, but it's definitely not good to see that it's no participation report. Remember, yesterday was kind of like their big day when it's really the heavy install. So this could have been a little bit lighter, and maybe they just, wanted to make sure that he's all right. It's pretty concerning as well that Lions would add a backup center to their practice squad, because that may make it sound like, okay, we're pretty sure Frank's not going to be ready at least this week, so let's have some depth there because Evan Brown's probably going to get the start. So Lions will have to shift some things around. Curious to see how they look to do it if they have to. Of course, if it's not Frank Ragnow, one of the lineman ideas I like potentially is that you could possibly move Logan Stenberg into the starting lineup, which Dan Campbell said if Logan Stenberg was going to start. Remember, they kept 2 guards, which was kind of surprising to me on their initial 53, but now it's like, well, dang, good thing they did, because if you don't have Tommy Kramer or Big V, it's a good thing you decided to keep an extra guard in Logan Stenberg. You could possibly put Logan Stenberg at left guard. Dan Campbell said that he would do that if Logan Stenberg played. Put Jonah at right guard, and if there is no Frank Ragnow, put Evan Brown at center. Then you can keep your tackles intact. I'm not really one that loves the idea of pushing Penei Sewell from right tackle to right guard, even though Ben Johnson said, look, he's way further than he was last year, so that actually is a possibility. I don't love it because I don't love trying to sub in a different offensive tackle. I get it for like the run blocking side. They have some really good players in the interior there. However, I would rather keep my 2 starting offensive tackles and move around the interior, Penei Sewell inside, and have a backup offensive tackle, because yes, Matt Nelson did struggle last time around, and it's, it's not all on him. There was a lot of issues going on with the team at that that point. We didn't really have any weapons on the field. As you said, Frank Ragnow was not playing in that game, but he did give up 9 pressures and 2 sacks. One of the sacks, unfortunately, was he got stepped on by DJ Hawkinson. He just got ran over. That wasn't, all on him, but that was definitely an issue, and I'd rather protect the tackles in this game and keep my 2 starting tackles and kind of shuffle around the interior. So the Lions got options. They haven't really talked about Drew Forrest potentially playing. It doesn't sound like he will, but it does kind of sound like, hey, let's just, make sure we have a little bit of depth here. Now, with the other signing, Ross, to their practice squad, it makes me think a little bit because he has most recently played the center position. He also played a little bit of guard, but he was a center in his final year coming out of Alabama. The Lions feel like the idea of potentially putting Evan Brown in at center is possible because then, of course, you would have to have a backup to Evan Brown. I think the reason you would do that over just putting Evan Brown at guard is because I don't think Evan Brown, just based on the little that I've seen in the past of him trying to play guard, is a great spot for him, but we know he can hold down center. We know he has tons of experience, and Ragnow's played guard for us in the past, and I think he could absolutely hold that down, but we'll see. Either way, back to the list. Levi, no participation. Really, this is no surprise. I don't think any of us anticipated Levi was going to be able to play this week, but as I said yesterday, it kind of feels nice just to see him on the list. I mean, I really anticipated weeks ago that this guy was probably going to be on injury reserve as soon as he got through the 53, and he's not, which I guess is good. Now, it doesn't look like he's going to play this week, which stinks, but it's nice to see him on here, and it may not be a super long-term issue that he's dealing with, which I hope is the case. But even if he is healthy, they still have to work him back because he hasn't played a lot for the Lions this offseason, and his role probably wouldn't come in as the immediate starter. He may, though. Chris Board, full participation. That's good. Aaron Glenn said today that really all those linebackers were going to get an opportunity. He didn't bring up Josh Wood specifically, but all the other 4 linebackers would get an opportunity in this game because they've all earned it, according to Aaron Glenn. Speaking of linebackers, he did say that Malcolm Rodriguez was maybe not going to start, but he was going to play a lot in this game, which I'm excited for because I think Malcolm could be partially an X factor in this game, just based on his skill set, helping us contain a lot of things, get on the edge. I think Malcolm Rodriguez could be huge in this game. Spy, all the outside runs, Jalen Hurts taking off. I think Malcolm could be a big player for us in this game, and just being reliable at this point. Same thing with Iffy. Like, Iffy is on here with limited participation, and I'm really curious to see if he is healthy, how much they actually utilize him on defense, because we didn't seemingly see him a lot in practice up to this point. I mean, he may have been behind the scenes a little bit. Does he go ahead a guy like Kirby Joseph at safety number 3 in certain packages, or do they go with Kirby because he's been playing, even though he's shown like, yeah, he's still got a little bit of a ways to go? I'm very curious to see where that would be at, but he actually may be able to play in this game. I just don't know to what extent he would actually play and what role he would really play for us. Julian Okwara, probably one of the ones I'm most excited about, is that he is limited, which means that he could potentially play. You asked me a couple weeks ago, I really did not think he was going to be ready for week 1, just based on how it kind of was going. The reason for that, of course, if you watched the preseason, we had to push Kaminsky basically at defensive end, at a big defensive end position, and it kind of limited the pressure we were able to get on the edge. Austin Bryant got pressure. We know we have Charles and Hutch. Those guys are going to get pressure, but then for your number 4 edge, who was going to help you there? And Kaminsky, as good as he was, I love him way more in the interior than the exterior, because you put him on the outside, he's just a little bit limited in ways that he can win. He still proved that he could be solid, but to have another edge rusher, you always need to have edge rushers. Julian was initially playing as like a starting Sam backer in this defense before he got injured, which is why Anthony Pittman took over that role. Having Julian will be outstanding, plus athletically, he could again help us a lot on the edge in this game with a lot of speed that Philadelphia can throw at you. With all the jet motions and the end arounds and all the fakes they threw at us last year, a guy like that could be very beneficial, and he did get to see him last year. We said Frank Ragnow, you can see no participation, but I guess another good news is Austin Seibert up to full participation, and according to Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, he was listed as limited, but he did say he did everything that we asked him to do on Wednesday. So I guess according to Phipp, he was basically full participation Wednesday, but he was listed as limited, which makes you just question a lot of these, because then it's like, well, hold up, if that's the case, how limited was this guy, right? We don't know that variance of how limited was this guy versus that guy. His limited participation is probably not equal to his limited participation. At Philadelphia's, theirs is much smaller, and today they just got great news where basically everybody's full participation that's even on this list. Derek Barnett, who is a backup defensive end for this team, is full participation after being limited yesterday. Javon Hargrave, full participation. He's a dog in the middle. I remember when he came available from Pittsburgh as a free agent, I was like, let's go get Hargrave. We didn't do it, but he's a great player in the interior, and we know he's very explosive and twitchy in the inside. And Miles Sanders, full participation. It sounds like Miles Sanders is 100% like he's going to play in this game. That's what I've heard. And Josiah Scott, their backup nickelbacks behind like Avonte Maddox, is limited as of right now. So yeah, they're kind of in a good spot when it comes to the injury side of things. Now, I do want to touch on a couple of these additions the Lions made specifically. Not too much here, but just some of the little things that I noticed. Corresponding with Big V being placed on IR is the Lions claiming offensive guard Drew Forbes. Remember, the Detroit Lions have second waiver claim as of now, so this was a player that even if other teams were putting in, claims for him, the Lions kind of have their pick of whoever they want. 6th round pick just a few years ago. Now, this is a player that was coming out of a small school that's kind of similar to the other guy that we also brought in, who I definitely would say I've watched more of. They both don't have elite length or measurables. I mean, this is a player with sub 33-inch arms, which definitely kind of pushes him in and locks him into an interior position, even though this preseason I saw him play at the left guard position for the Cleveland Browns, so that makes it interesting. Potentially could play center, but I saw him play at the left guard position. What's nice is athletically, he's just a good athlete. He's young, but he is a very good athlete that had kind of a long way to go coming out of college. He's not a mauler. He's not a guy that's, getting consistent movement. He doesn't have great measurables or length or some of those traits, but he is a good athlete that changes direction as well. I like it because specifically in pass protection sets, he definitely seems suited really well for quick passing sets, but really he just gets up on you. His style of play, specifically from the guard position, especially as you push him out more and more, is kind of just get in your chest, close off the airspace, and play very tight with defensive linemen. They get away from him a little bit. He doesn't always have the length and ability to recover, but if he gets up on you, he can kind of just seal off a defensive lineman immediately into a rep. He's worked on that coming out of college. That was something that wasn't always consistent and needed to be in the NFL, is that he has to have more consistent hands. He does seem to get caught playing over his toes, which can lead to balance issues. Not getting, blown by at times, especially with this play style, and he's seemingly gotten pretty consistent in the NFL. But we'll see where the Lions go with that. I can't say I've watched enough of this player, but if I do find out that he's going to be playing in this game, we're probably going to dive more into it just to see exactly what we have in this player, because really he hasn't played much in the NFL. He's only played 3 games, but there's not really much to look at aside from preseason. Now, the other addition which we made today, which I have seen more of, whose last name I'm not even going to try. I'm typing this dude's name in, and I'm like, stop it. This is insane. Like, how many letters? He's got 1, 2, 3. I hope I spelled this right. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's got 13 letters. He's got half the alphabet in his last name. I don't know if I spelled it right, but dang, man. Anyway, his first name is Ross. I can rock with that. 27 years old, but he was a 5th round pick back in 2019 out of Bama. Now, he has tons of playing experience, specifically going back to colleges. Coming out of Alabama, he was a 3-year starter at the guard position, specifically left guard position. He started 42 games at the left guard position. In his final year in college, they moved into the center position where he played almost 1,000 snaps for Alabama. Now, in the NFL, specifically this preseason, taking a look at him, he played both at the center position and the guard position. In the NFL, he has spent time with a couple different teams, but most recently he was with the New York Jets, which I think is just super fascinating because he joined the New York Jets in 2021 through their practice squad, and of course their offensive coordinator that they hired at that time was Mike LaFleur, and we know he's coming from that LaFleur system, which is a whole bunch of outside zone rushing scheme. Looking at a guy like Drew Forbes, this is a player who doesn't have great measurables, not elite length, and that's why he's kind of pushed into the interior position. And at the guard position, he did show some issues, but I don't know why they were doing that. Maybe just to, see if he can make a roster spot. Like, he's got to show some versatility. He played at center. I thought he looked good in the first preseason game. The second preseason game, they came back, they put him at a guard position. Now, what's interesting is that first preseason game, he was actually playing against Philadelphia, who of course we play week number 1, and it seems like the Lions kind of do that. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but it may. He is a zone blocking offensive lineman, specifically in the run blocking side. He's more of a positional blocker rather than a mauler or a guy that's going to get consistent movement on the interior. He's more about just getting in the right position. And what I like about him is he is a very fluid offensive lineman. Look at his first step off the line, specifically as a run blocker in zone blocking. I mean, he absolutely explodes off the line, creates a lot of space. Didn't seem to use him as much as a power run blocker. It did show up in the little that I watched that, it seemed like he kind of got over his toes, specifically in pass protection. It would happen from time to time, and he didn't always have a consistent anchor in pass protection, and that could get him kind of just bulldozed to the quarterback. But more so, I think even in run blocking, where he would kind of find himself lunging a little bit, find some lack of balance there, specifically off the line of scrimmage, and that could get him in issues where he could allow penetration very quickly in a rep. That's trying to get that movement that he doesn't get a lot of push for naturally, so he's maybe exerting a little bit there. But in pass protection, he's a very fluid mover. He has very good ability to mirror, especially from the inside because there's less ground to cover. He can mirror defensive linemen and just kind of mash them step for step with great fluid athleticism. So I like his movement skills. I've seen him more than I've seen Drew Forbes, so I talk about him a little bit more, but it is 2 interior offensive linemen, which it just makes tons of sense with the injuries. But I'm very curious as well to see if we get to see a little bit of Logan Stenberg. I mean, I'm here for it. I'm curious to see what that looks like. I don't think he's even ever played in a regular season game for us. A couple little notes from some some of these pressers, specifically the coordinators, Ben Johnson. Now, he didn't really say it, and I don't think it's been confirmed whether or not he's going to call plays. And I don't really, I mean, it's kind of like a news thing, I guess, because it's like clickbaity, but I don't really care, and I really do think it will be Ben Johnson. And it kind of felt like today, without saying it, he kind of said it was going to be Ben Johnson. He talked about, how his kid's going into kindergarten. They got to get all these tickets for the game, which, as y'all saw, it's sold out. I don't even know what sold out means at this point. Like, really, what does sold out mean? Because you can still buy tickets. So does that mean that, tickets were bought and then they're just being resold because some people don't want to go and they're just trying to make more money off it? I really don't know what it means to be sold out at this point, because you can actually still buy tickets. Either way, that's off topic. With Ben Johnson, he kind of made it sound like he was going to be calling plays, because then he's like, well, then they found out who's calling plays this weekend, so they got to get all these tickets. And I'm like, okay, well, that probably means Ben Johnson knows that he's calling plays. And he has said, yeah, we've had these internal discussions. He said it's still ongoing, making it sound like they haven't decided. But to me, it sounds like they kind of know where they're going with this one. He's like, we kind of have a good plan. So it sounds like Ben Johnson's calling plays, but don't hold me to it because I'm not sure for sure. But it sounds like he will be calling plays in this game, which I think just makes sense. I mean, you pull all the way back to the Senior Bowl when he got the opportunity to be our OC in that game. Decided to just promote him instead of going to get another outside name, which I loved because of the success that he had with Jared and with this offense, and really how these guys have responded to it. And Goff even said it yesterday, they've given me full reins over this offense. And as Ben Johnson said today, Goff, he's a very smart player. He said I couldn't ask for any more in a quarterback. This was probably my favorite thing I took from the whole thing, because we talked about this so much and finding answers. We talked about that so much. He said this, he was asked about, utilizing motion within the offense, which the Lions did a lot last year. And we talked about how the Lions would kind of find answers pre-snap to help Jared Goff, where you can make decisions after the snap, because, I mean, it's just so fast after the snap. Finding some key identifiers for Jared, maybe just giving him a little bit of tips before the snap. Now, you're not going to know everything because all the disguises and stuff, but I even saw it in this Philadelphia game. Look, Philadelphia ran a lot of cover 3 against us in this game, like a lot of teams do, and we couldn't really do to attack off outside numbers. I mean, we had Trinity Benson out there who was missing some blocks on screens. We struggled in this game, and we really didn't have any success outside the numbers. They ran a lot of cover 3 against us, but you did see the Lions utilize motion, and they consistently kind of just went to the well when he knew what it was, especially in this game because our pass protection wasn't great. We're getting hit very quickly. There wasn't time to wait and survey. It was like, okay, give him a little bit of an identifier and let's see if we can get this thing rolling a little bit. And I think towards the second half of the season, Lions did a lot of that, but there were plays like the Lions had a cover 3 look and they tried to hit him up the seam, a couple vertical routes, and they had no shot to even get it off. Like, that was an issue, which is why I think we should protect the tackle position. I'm just personally, I think we got guys that can handle the interior. I think we saw it last year, but I worry about what we can do at the tackle position behind Decker and Sewell. So I would just stick with that. But either way, with Ben Johnson, without going into it too deep, because we talked about this a lot already, is that, you go back to Senior Bowl, the guy was calling play for us. Then you also just look at him on the sideline. I love how engaged he was with this offense before he even played a bigger role within this offense. But you go back to like week 1 against San Fran, and you can see how engaged he is with the offensive plays more than really anybody else is on the sideline. Like, his reactions to everything, he's not calling the plays, but he is in it, man. And I feel like this is just perfect for him to have this responsibility. And Dan Campbell, look, you trust your guys. Your head coach doesn't need to do everything. And I'm cool if he wants to. I have no issue with it because he did it last year. And if he wants to do it, that's fine. But, if you trust your guys and you believe that, they can hold it down, Dan Campbell doesn't need to call plays. And if he can do that, he'll give him, I think, those reins. And I think he will give him that opportunity to call plays. He's done it really all offseason. You watch training camp. He's the guy calling plays. He's the guy speaking to Goff. And that's really the biggest thing, because I still think in key moments, they're going to come together and like, okay, what do we want to do here? It's 3rd down and 4, or it's 4th down and 2. Do we want to go? What are we thinking for play calls? And then communicate with them amongst each other. But who has that communication between quarterback and coach? I think it makes sense to have that be Ben Johnson, just because they've been synced together in terms of just what they're seeing on the field. And all these, receivers have praised him and stuff, like he sees it. I would just have Ben Johnson have the communication between the quarterback. That was the biggest thing they wanted to change last year with Anthony Lynn. I would like that to be the communication. But of course, if things go wrong, they would probably have to switch it at that point. Regardless, I don't know where that's going to go. Defensively, I love hearing Aaron Glenn. He did say that, you kind of take everything personal. Now, last year was bad. And still, even watching it back, it's unfortunate because we had opportunities, but we missed them. But at the same time, you could just see how limited we were. Like, you go to the offense side of the ball, the limitations we had. Swift was having, no success rushing the football. And there were opportunities there. We had missed blocks, whether that was from receiver. Big V actually had some struggles early in this game. I didn't get through the whole game, but I was like, okay, Big V's missed some blocks. We try to do a lot of pulling, blocking schemes in this game. Our counters, they would do a lot of that kind of heavy stuff on the interior, and they had really big issues connecting on blocks consistently. And I think one of the biggest things, without having the numbers for it, staying on track. Like, the Lions got in so many 2nd and 11. If there ever was, like, even if it was a 6-yard completion, it was like, okay, flag, take it back. It can't be 2nd and 10, pick up 6 yards because now you're in a 3rd down. That 1st down, you got to give me something. And the flags, like Goff had one where he stepped up, dumped it down, flag. It's like, okay, that's coming back, right? I mean, it was just, we were really bad on early downs. And if you think about it, we came out, I talked about the cover 3, and we attacked it immediately. And you know, we hit it right up the seam to TJ Hockenson. But we just could not get into 2nd and 4. It didn't seem like in this game, like, ever. And it really hurt us because, of course, you know, with struggling pass protection, you're really limiting what you can do on the outside because this is a whole different game. I mean, instead of, say, having Benson, you have Josh Reynolds, Quintez Cephas, oh yeah, and that guy named DJ Chark. Like, it's a whole different ball game in this one. All right, Hawks still hear those, but the outside receiver position is completely different dynamic. I know they got all these new additions and this and that, but we have to also understand that, yeah, Josh Reynolds is back, but he didn't play against Philly last year. Quintez Cephas didn't play against Philly last year. DJ Chark, of course, you just didn't. Taylor Decker didn't play against Philly last year. I think if you have your starting tackles, which I would do, and with some of just these good weapons on the outside, not going to go crazy, but Goff can trust, oh, it's a whole different ball game. It really is, and it opens up everything. And hopefully we get more 2-shell looks instead of all the dang one single high safety that we got. They weren't even disguising it. It was just like, here you go. Rushing the passer against the mobile quarterback. He said, I'm not going to have Aiden Hutchinson and Charles sit back. Like, we're going to go get after him. But, you know, there's things that we have to have in place to understand, you know, we have to contain. We can't let things get outside. And that was an issue in that first game that you watched last year. Like, they got a lot of things to the edge on us. I think Alex Anzalone, from what I've seen so far, did not play very well in this game. And you could just see the patient style the Lions were playing defensively. I'm curious to see how this kind of changes because the Lions didn't really force negative plays. And that's one thing. We're going to give up some plays. We're also going to get some negatives, right? And we got to get you in a 2nd and long here and there. We weren't really getting those. I mean, there was a goal line snap where Alex Anzalone just kind of stood there and waited for him to run through the hole and then hit him. It was so weird. The more aggressive style. The guy that showed up in this game to me on the D-line was Michael Brockers. He's the guy that actually showed up on the D-line. But we had a lot, I mean, our defensive line, think about this, was Nick Williams, John Pennicini, and Michael Brockers. It's a completely different look with just Lee McNeil playing a much bigger role and what we know he can do. Having Michael Brockers, John Kaminsky, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be night and day different from what we had last year on the edge with Charles Harris and Julian Okwara, specifically against the run, which is why I loved me some Hutchinson. It's why I wanted him so bad, because he could help us stop the run. But we've seen in the preseason now, Lions can stop the run. They can hang in the interior. Last year, man, it looked so slow, and we were struggling to hit gaps, and, you know, we weren't getting off blocks consistently. Rockers the only dude that was, like, making flash plays. It was rough, man. It's a lot that Philadelphia does. Like, they're the type of team that'll bring out an option, and they did that in the goal line. We stopped it. D. Marlowe made a great play. They'll bring out the read option on you, which we made another good play, Alex Anzalone. But I'm curious to see how this aggressiveness can really make that happen because, again, I think the more times you make Jalen Hurts have to try to beat you, the better situation you're in. And I just say that because, you know, Lions, we gave him some issues. Like, there was specifically a pass that I noted. We dropped cover 2, and he had it. I mean, I think he did. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was there, and he pulled it down. And I love the way that Aaron Glenn disguises things. Like, he don't get enough credit for the way that he tries to hide coverage. He just doesn't always have the playmakers. But if you really watch it back, you can see instances where, like, dang, that's pretty good. He dropped Austin Bryant into the underneath coverage, and it was like, oh, that's nice. It's kind of taking away that crosser. But he had the cover 2 look, and he decided to pull it down. They did a nice little disguise cover 2, and he kind of took off. And that's the thing with Hurts, man. Like, there was no pressure. There was zero pressure. So what happens when there's actually some sort of pressure? There was no pressure on this play, and he decided to take off. Like, I think you got to, like, try to put that pressure on him. With all the hype going into Philadelphia, put the pressure on him. Make a couple negative plays. You're not going to shut down the run. They just run it too much. They're going to get 200. I mean, they ran for 160 yards a game, but they still lost certain games where they ran really well. You're not going to shut it down, but if you can get him a couple, like, 2nd and 13s, you put a little bit more pressure on Hurts than just having him comfortable where he's always ahead of the chains. And when you flip that the other way, I think you just start to put a little bit more on Hurts' shoulders, and you understand that there's a lot of hype for Philadelphia. Put more on his shoulders. And then all of a sudden, I think things get really interesting. But we'll hit that. We'll save that. Regardless, it's going to be a tough game. But it's good to be back with another Lions latest episode. Stay tuned for previews, predictions. We should be live tonight with Ragnow on his channel. We're going super late, but we're going to do predictions for the NFL season, for divisions, for MVPs, all that kind of fun stuff. So check it out. Thank you for watching after the Rams game, and I'm out.